Hi guys, it's Jess from Honest Fiction and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing spooky season reads that are available on Kindle Unlimited. Alright guys, so yesterday I asked over on my Instagram for some video ideas, and I had a few people request a Kindle Unlimited fall rec video. Now I've already done a lot of fall content that I'll leave down in the description below. However, I really like the idea of doing a Kindle Unlimited version. Now I didn't want to talk about the books I already talked about, so in this video I have 10 Kindle Unlimited books that are perfect for spooky season, whether they be dark romance, dark fantasy romance in a gothic setting, just books that are a little bit creepy and that I would typically like to read this time of year. So I am so excited to talk about these books with you guys, and once again, they are all available on KU. Now, if you're unfamiliar with my channel, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. You can also hit that notification bell to be notified whenever I post new bookish content. You can also check out my Instagram, Goodreads, and Patreon, all linked down below. With all that out of the way, let's talk about these spooky reads on KU. So starting off with Phantasma. Now, I have talked about this book in previous videos. I actually feel like I've talked about this book in every single video I have filmed since finishing it. I love this book. It is perfect for this time of year. If you are a fan of Caraval by Stephanie Garber, the YA series, you will absolutely adore this book. It is like a darker, spicier, more grown-up version, but the consequences are much more deadly and the romance and the spice are perfection. But if you're unfamiliar with this story, it is a adult, I think it's considered a dark fantasy romance. We are following Ophelia along with her sister, and after the sudden death of their mother, Ophelia ends up inheriting her mother's necromancy abilities. Now, she also finds out that her mother was going through some money troubles and they're about to lose their home. So Ophelia's sister takes it upon herself to enter Phantasma, which is this deadly competition that's kind of based off the 9 levels of hell, where if you reach the final level, you'll be able to have a wish granted from whoever controls this. However, once again, it is very dangerous. Many people do not survive. So Ophelia, after finding out that her sister has entered, decides she is going to enter to save her sister. And when she gets there, she immediately meets a certain person, and the story really goes from there. And the #1 rule is to not fall in love in Phantasma. Once again, I love this. The vibes are perfect. It is creepy. It is gothic. The romance was, I loved it. I was obsessed. So highly, highly recommend. If you have not read this yet, it is so worth the hype. This next book is a new release I have not read yet. However, I am hoping an audiobook is released soon. It is Anathema, I believe, by Keri. I'm not exactly sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. However, Keri is one of my go-to authors. There's actually a few Keri books on this list when I am getting into spooky season. Her writing and the descriptions are just so well done. So I'm sure I'm going to love this book. It is following a girl named Maeve that after a tragic event, she is forced into the Witch Knell, which is a haunted type wood. And when she gets through that, she ends up in another very deadly and mysterious realm where she is introduced to an assassin who I believe is known as the Scorpion, and he agrees to protect her from whoever is hunting her, and I think it's going to be their romance, and that is all I really know. But once again, the cover is stunning, and I'm sure the story is going to be amazing. So I'm really hoping an audiobook drops ASAP. And next up is Nocticadia, also by Keri. I read this book back in August, and it was a 5-star read. It was one of my top reads of the month, and honestly, one of my top reads of the year, which is insane when you realize that one of the biggest plot points is about parasitic worms. Never would have thought I would love this book. However, the way it is written, it is just so creepy and disturbing and so, so good, but also the romance is forbidden, and I loved it. So in this story, we are following a girl, I believe her name is pronounced Lilia. It's been a while since I listened to the audiobook. But after her mother passes away from a mysterious illness, Lily becomes obsessed with trying to figure out what caused her mother to become infected. So she ends up being accepted to Nocticadia University, which is this very creepy, isolated university in the middle of this island. And when she gets there, she meets Dr. Death, who is this intimidating professor who is a pathologist who ends up kind of taking our main character under his wing. It is their romance, but it is so much more. There are so many secrets that are being hidden in this school, and it's so, so good. So please, if you have not read this yet, it is available on KU and perfect for spooky season. And next up is Corrupt by Penelope Douglas. This is the first book in the Devil's Night series. Now, this is a little bit of an older series, and I honestly don't talk about it very often on my channel, but it is one of my favorite series by Penelope Douglas. I absolutely love the characters in this, and it is perfect for spooky season. It definitely has that like really creepy vibe, and fear is like a big component of the overall story. But in this story, we are following Erica, and Erica has a huge crush on her boyfriend's older brother, Michael. Now, she's never really acted on this until one night she ends up going out with Michael and his friends. Things happen, and all of Michael's friends end up in jail, and they hold a lot of animosity and resentment towards Erica because they believe she is the reason why they ended up being caught and taken in. So years go by, Erica is now in college, and she ends up running into Michael when she is alone in the city, and he is still out for revenge, and it goes from there. It is so good. Definitely check trigger warnings, but I am so excited. This is on KU. You definitely need to read it. And next up is Scream for Us by Molly Doyle. So this is a super spicy novella. I actually haven't read this yet, but I'm hoping to get to it soon. So I believe this is following a girl that ends up going to a Halloween party, and then after an altercation, she ends up being saved by this masked stranger, who then proceeds to lock her in a room with two other masked men, and she agrees to be down for whatever they have in mind. However, everything has to stop when the sun comes up, and it goes from there. So when I was looking into the plot of this, it said that this was a lot of spice, very little plot. But if you would like a similar story with more plot, then you should read Bloodshed by the same author that is also available on KU. So I'm going to read this, see if I like it, and then I'll check out Bloodshed. If you have read Bloodshed, let me know what did you think, because I'm very curious. Dark romance, why choose? It just sounds really good. And next up is Her Soul to Take by Harley LaRou. This is actually Her Soul for Revenge, which is the second book in the series. I couldn't find my copy of the first book, but this entire series is perfect for spooky season. When I was reading the first book, it really felt like I was watching a horror movie. The imagery, the monsters, there's this Cthulhu-type god that is described in such a way. He was so, so creepy. But if you're unfamiliar with the story, first check trigger warnings. It is dark paranormal fantasy romance, but super dark. But we're following this girl named Ray who ends up moving to this town that she, I believe, was actually from, but then she ended up going to college and now she's moved back. And she's really into the occult, but unbeknownst to her, she's being targeted by this cult. And this cult actually ends up sending a demon after her, and that demon ends up kind of having an infatuation with Ray and becomes very interested in her. And they begin this like romantic relationship while trying to take down this cult and also stop this Cthulhu-like god from killing everybody, and it goes from there. So I will also say I did almost DNF this book the first time I read it because the writing isn't quite my style. However, the story makes up for it completely. I love the action. It was just so, so good. Highly, highly recommend. And next up is Nightshade by Keri Lake. This is the first book in a dark, almost paranormal, Gothic romance duology. Now, these books are rather long, and I will say that I did soft DNF the first book. I started it back in the summer, and as soon as I got halfway in, I realized this is the perfect book for spooky season, just because of the vibes and the Gothic setting, and there's a lot of talk about darkness. However, I am now running out of spooky season time, so I need to get to this book ASAP. But if you're unfamiliar with the story, we are following this girl that is obsessed with finding the light and hope in darkness and depravity, and she eventually finds herself in this other realm where she meets this person named Jericho who lives in this like haunted, eerie cathedral, and it is their romance. I know that is not a lot to go on. That is literally how far I got into the book, and I do not know what happens after that. But I will say the Gothic vibes were vibing. They were so creepy, and I love Keri Lake's writing. She does such an amazing job of just making it feel so unsettling. So highly recommend, and this is another book that I will hopefully finish before the end of fall. And next up is Hollow Heathens by Nicole Fiorina. This is a creepy Gothic romance that was slightly inspired by Romeo and Juliet, and I adore Nicole Fiorina. I will read any book that woman puts out. So Bone Island is set in the same world as this, and it has recently been released via audio, so I will 100% be reading that and also highly recommend checking that book out. But if you have not read Hollow Heathens, you need to. In this story, we are following a girl named Fallon, and she had left her childhood home along with her parents when she was very young, and really has never gone back there. However, she still communicates with her grandfather, who is her only remaining relative. Well, one day he ends up sending her a letter saying, hey, I need you to come back home to help take care of me. However, when Fallon gets there, her grandfather soon tells her, I did not send that letter. You need to leave immediately. And we soon find out that Fallon has no way of leaving. Every time she tries, she ends up returning back. So there is some sort of curse at play. And on top of that, Fallon ends up being drawn to this masked stranger that everyone in the town is telling her she needs to stay away from. However, there's just this pull that keeps her coming back. And it is their story. It is so good. Please, please read this. It is available on KU. And once again, the book set in the same world, Bone Island, recently released, and I will definitely be listening to that book shortly. And next up is Grimstone by Sophie Lark. This is a dark romance that also has some very creepy and thriller-like elements to it. So in this story, we are following this girl that after she finds out her boyfriend has been cheating on her, she decides to take her younger brother, who she cares for, and move to a house that was once inhabited by her uncle, who has recently passed away. Now, neither our main character or her brother have been to this house or know this town very well, and they soon find out that their neighbor, who is this very intimidating and kind of creepy guy, might have murdered his late wife. So the story kind of goes from there. There's a lot of mysteries and creepy and unsettling things that are happening within this new house. And overall, I thought this was a very solid read. So this is another book that is available on KU. And also, I believe Sophie Lark has written another book that is set in the same world that hopefully will have an audiobook released soon. And of course, I had to end this with Gothikana by RuNyx. This is one of my all-time favorite Gothic romances. I just feel like it blends the forbidden student-teacher trope with such a creepy Gothic setting so beautifully. It is just so, so well done. So if you're unfamiliar with the story, we're following this girl who has felt like an outcast her entire life, and her mother has recently passed away. Now, her mother suffered from a lot of different mental disorders, and our main character is very afraid that she might have inherited some of them. So after her mother's passing, she's trying to figure out what she's going to do, and she receives a letter from the University of Venmore requesting her admittance, and she decides to accept. Now, when she gets to this university, she realizes it is not what she was expecting. It is completely isolated, very creepy, and the person in charge of this university ends up being her professor, and it is their forbidden romance. So you have the whole forbidden romance aspect. These two people should not be together. One's a student, one's a teacher. And then you also have all of these eerie and mysterious things that are happening at the university and mysteries that have to be solved. And it is just so, so, so unbelievably good. This is one of my favorite books on this list. So please, if you have not read this yet, you need to pick it up. All right, guys, so those are some of my favorite spooky season books that are available on KU. Please let me know down in the comments below if there are any books that I did not recommend that you think are perfect for spooky season and are available on Kindle Unlimited. And I'd like to say a special thank you to my Paladin Protectors, Amanda, Erin, Leslie, Kat, and Lotta. Thank you guys so much for supporting my channel. I'd also like to say a special thank you to everyone who watched this video. And I said this already, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday, and if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. I will see you all next week. Bye.